Welcome to this edition of Joint Endeavors, joint mobilization for the lower extremities. Beginning with the hips, we're going to start simply with an exercise called hip swings. And what it begins with is dropping our weight into one side. You can use a chair or a wall as a balance support. And then we simply begin swinging our leg forward and back. Okay, we're moving through our pain-free range of motion. Once more. And now the next variation is back and forth across our standing foot at about a 45-degree angle. Once more. And then the final variation is back and forth or side to side in front of us. Once more. Good. Shifting sides. Beginning with hip swings, forward and back. Once more. And now across the foot at about a 45. And then side to side in front of us. Once more. Good. From here we move to hip circles and begin with our feet about hips width apart, keeping a gentle bend in the knees. And then from here, we start making slow circles in one direction. And then when you're comfortable, you can begin to explore the full pain-free range of motion that's available to you without pushing past the edges. And once more in this direction. And now we'll switch directions. Once more. Good. Moving now to our knees, we bring our feet closer together. We hinge at the hips, bending our knees, hands on thighs. We begin with a gentle down and up movement as if we're getting ready to sit down, and then pressing back up through the heels, rising back up. We're moving not only through our pain-free, but also our stable range of motion. So we're not dropping so deep that we introduce instability or muscle strain. We're focused on creating a pumping-like action within the knees, pumping in nutrients and producing lubrication. Once more. And then while keeping a gentle bend of the knees, now we start creating circles in one direction. Once more in this direction. And now we'll switch. Once more. Good. Finishing with the ankles and the feet. The first exercise we're going to go essentially enables, and I'll do this from the side, is that we're shifting our weight to one side and then we're stepping back so that the toes line up with the heel of the standing leg. And then from here we just begin simply by lifting the heel up and then dropping the heel. We're flexing the toes, we're flexing the foot, and we're flexing the ankle. Once more, down and up. And then while keeping the heel lifted, we start making small circles with our knee. And you'll notice that the ankle, the foot, and the toes follow. And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and shift directions. Once more. Good. Shifting sides, stepping back. We begin by lifting and dropping the heel. Once more, down and up. And then with the heel lifted, we start making circles in one direction with the knee. Once more. And then switch directions. Once more. Good. The final exercise for the ankles requires a little bit of balance support. We're going to drop our weight into one leg, lift the other leg up, and then we begin with dorsiflexion where we pull the toes towards us, and plantar flexion where we point the toes away. Moving back and forth slowly. Once more. And then from here we start drawing circles with our big toe. And then when you're ready, you can shift directions. Once more. Good. Shifting sides, extending one leg forward, beginning with dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. Once more. And then when you're ready, you can begin drawing circles with your big toe. Once more. And then when you're ready, you can shift directions. Once more. Good. This concludes this edition of Joint Endeavors, Mobilization for the Lower Extremities. Thank you for your time.